Episode 1: A reunion of old friends. The warm afternoon sun cast a golden hue over the bustling streets of their hometown as Marie and Julian stepped into their favorite childhood cafe. The familiar scent of freshly brewed coffee and baked goods greeted them, bringing back a flood of memories. They found a cozy corner table, the same one they used to occupy during their high school days, and settled in with their drinks, Marie with her black coffee and Julian with a latte. Marie, now a polished and confident professional, had spent the last few years establishing herself in the world of personal finance. Her passion was evident in the way she spoke about her work, her eyes lighting up as she described her mission to make financial literacy accessible and understandable for everyone. Julian, on the other hand, had taken a different path. He was an aspiring young entrepreneur, brimming with ideas and enthusiasm but struggling to get a firm grip on his finances. As they caught up on their lives, Julian couldn't help but share his frustrations. Laurie, I'm really excited about my startup, but managing money has been such a challenge. I feel like I'm constantly juggling expenses, and I never seem to have enough left to save or invest. Marie listened intently, nodding empathetically. I understand, Julian. It's not uncommon, especially when you're just starting out. But there are ways to manage it effectively. Have you ever heard of the 50-30-20 budgeting method? Julian shook his head, curiosity piqued. No, what's that? Marie leaned in, her voice steady and reassuring. It's a simple yet powerful method for managing your finances. The idea is to divide your net income into three categories: 50% for essential needs, 30% for wants, and 20% for savings and debt repayment. Julian's eyes widened. That sounds straightforward, but how do I know what counts as a need or a want? Marie smiled. Needs are things you can't do without: your rent, utilities, groceries, transportation. Wants are the extras that make life enjoyable, like dining out, entertainment, and hobbies. The key is to keep your essentials within 50% of your income, limit your wants to 30%, and prioritize saving and debt repayment with the remaining 20%. Julian took a sip of his latte, processing this new information. It sounds like a good structure, but what if my needs exceed 50% of my income? That's a common challenge, Marie acknowledged. If your needs take up more than 50%, you'll need to look for ways to cut back on your wants or find ways to increase your income. The goal is to find a balance that works for you and allows you to save and reduce debt effectively. The conversation continued, with Marie sharing examples and tips on how to implement the 50-30-20 method. Julian felt a sense of relief wash over him. For the first time, he saw a clear path to managing his finances more effectively. As they finished their drinks and prepared to leave, Julian felt a renewed sense of hope and determination. Thanks, Marie. I really appreciate your help. This method sounds like exactly what I need to get my finances on track. Marie smiled warmly. I'm glad to help, Julian. Remember, it's all about making small, consistent changes. You'll get there. With that, they stepped out into the bright afternoon, ready to face their respective challenges with newfound confidence and a deeper connection to their shared past. The cafe, a silent witness to their reunion, stood as a testament to the enduring power of friendship and the promise of new beginnings. Episode 2: The Foundations of the Method. The next day, Marie invited Julian to her office, a bright and welcoming space filled with books on finance, motivational posters, and a large whiteboard covered in colorful markers. As Julian entered, he was struck by how organized and serene the environment was, a stark contrast to the chaotic swirl of numbers and expenses in his own mind. Marie gestured for Julian to sit at the round table in the center of the room. She opened her laptop, pulling up a spreadsheet template designed to illustrate the 50-30-20 budgeting method. Julian leaned in, ready to absorb the information. All right, Julian, Marie began, her tone both professional and friendly. The 50-30-20 method is all about simplifying your approach to budgeting. By dividing your net income into three categories, you can gain better control over your finances and make more informed decisions. Julian nodded, although his skepticism was evident. It sounds good in theory, but I'm not sure how it will work in practice. My expenses always seem to outweigh my income. Marie smiled, understanding his hesitation. Let's break it down. First, we allocate 50% of your net income to essential needs. These are the non-negotiable expenses: rent, utilities, groceries, transportation. Think of these as the foundation of your financial house. You need a stable base to build upon. She drew a pie chart on the whiteboard, coloring in the first half with blue. Next, we have 30% for wants. These are the things that make life enjoyable but aren't strictly necessary: dining out, entertainment, hobbies, anything that adds pleasure to your life. This section allows for flexibility and fun. Marie filled in another segment of the pie chart with green. Finally, the remaining 20% is for savings and debt repayment. This is crucial for building financial security and planning for the future. Whether it's creating an emergency fund, investing, or paying down student loans, this category helps you grow your wealth and reduce financial stress. She completed the pie chart, coloring the last segment in yellow. Julian studied the chart, his brow furrowed in thought. That what if my essential needs exceed 50% of my income? That's my biggest concern. Marie nodded, anticipating his question. It's a common issue, especially in cities with high living costs. If your needs exceed 50%, you will have to make some adjustments. Look for ways to reduce expenses in other areas or increase your income. It might mean cutting back on wants for a while or finding a side gig to boost your earnings. Julian sighed, running a hand through his hair. I get it, but it sounds easier said than done. My rent alone takes up a huge chunk of my income. That's understandable, Marie said gently. The 50-30-20 method is a guideline, not a strict rule. The important thing is to aim for balance and make conscious choices. If your needs take up 60%, maybe you limit your wants to 20% and still try to save 20%. The percentages can be adjusted to fit your reality, but the goal remains the same, to create a sustainable financial plan. Julian's skepticism began to wane as he considered Marie's words. I see what you mean. It gives me a framework to work within, rather than feeling overwhelmed by everything at once. Exactly, Marie affirmed. It's about gaining control and making deliberate decisions. Start by tracking your expenses for a month. See where your money is going and identify areas where you can cut back or reallocate funds. We'll work through it together. Julian felt a flicker of hope. All right, I'll give it a shot. What's the first step? Marie handed him a notebook and a pen. Start by listing your current income and expenses. Write down everything, no detail is too small. Once we have a clear picture, we can start categorizing and adjusting. As Julian began jotting down numbers, Marie felt a sense of satisfaction. Helping people like Julian gain financial clarity was why she loved her job. She knew the journey wouldn't be easy, but she was confident that with guidance and persistence, Julian could transform his financial habits and achieve his goals. They worked side by side for the next few hours, diving into Julian's finances with determination. By the time they wrapped up, Julian felt more organized and optimistic than he had in months. The 50-30-20 method, once an abstract concept, was beginning to take shape as a practical tool in his hands. As he left Marie's office, Julian felt a renewed sense of purpose. With Marie's guidance and the 50-30-20 method as his compass, he was ready to embark on the journey towards better financial health and a more secure future. Episode 3: Analyzing Essential Needs. A few days later, Julian found himself back in Marie's office, ready to delve deeper into his finances. The initial excitement of learning about the 50-30-20 method had given way to a sense of urgency. Julian knew he needed to get a handle on his essential expenses if he wanted to achieve financial stability. Marie welcomed him with a warm smile and a cup of coffee. All right, Julian, let's get started on analyzing your essential needs. These are your must-pay expenses, things you can't live without. We categorize your rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, and any other unavoidable costs. Julian pulled out his notebook and a stack of bills and receipts he'd been collecting. I've tried to list everything, but it feels overwhelming. Marie nodded sympathetically. It can be, but breaking it down step by step will help. Let's start with the big ones, rent and utilities. They began by reviewing Julian's rent, which was his largest monthly expense. Marie noted the amount and moved on to utilities, electricity, water, and internet. Next, they tackled groceries, using Julian's recent receipts to estimate his monthly spending. Transportation followed, including his car payment, insurance, and fuel costs. As they added up the numbers, Marie entered them into her spreadsheet, creating a clear picture of Julian's essential expenses. The totals appeared on the screen, and Julian leaned in, studying them intently. All right, Julian, Marie said, turning the laptop towards him. Here's the breakdown of your essential needs. Let's see how they measure up against your net income. She quickly calculated the percentages, and Julian's eyes widened in surprise. Wow, my essential needs take up 65% of my income. I had no idea it was that high. Marie nodded. It's more common than you think, especially in areas with high living costs. The important thing is that now we know where you stand. This is the first step towards making adjustments. Julian sighed, feeling a mix of relief and concern. I knew my expenses were high, but seeing it like this makes it real. What can I do about it? Marie leaned back, considering the options. First, let's look at ways to reduce these costs. Are there any areas where you could cut back? For example, can you find a cheaper apartment or reduce your utility usage? Julian thought for a moment. I could probably save on groceries if I shopped more carefully and cooked at home more often. And I've been meaning to look for a roommate to share the rent. Those are great ideas, Marie said, jotting down notes. Every little bit helps. What about transportation? Would you carpool, use public transit, or maybe even bike to work sometimes? Julian nodded. I could definitely use public transit more often. It's cheaper and I wouldn't have to worry about parking fees. Marie smiled encouragingly. Perfect. These changes might not seem huge individually, but together they can make a significant difference. The goal is to gradually bring your essential expenses closer to 50% of your income. Julian felt a glimmer of hope. It's going to be tough, but I can see how it's possible with some adjustments. Exactly, Marie affirmed. It's all about making conscious choices and taking small steps. Let's create an action plan. Start by tracking your expenses more diligently and implementing the changes we've discussed. We review your progress in a month and see where we stand. As they wrapped up the session, Julian felt more empowered. The daunting task of managing his finances now seemed achievable with Marie's guidance and the clear structure of the 50-30-20 method. Thank you, Marie, he said sincerely. I feel like I'm finally starting to understand how to take control of my money. Marie smiled warmly. You're doing great, Julian. Remember, it's a journey. Keep making progress and you'll get there. I'm here to help every step of the way. Leaving Marie's office, Julian felt a renewed sense of purpose. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but with a clear understanding of his essential needs and a plan in place, he was ready to tackle his financial challenges head on. Episode 4: Managing Wants. A week later, Julian found himself at Marie's office again, ready to tackle the next step in his financial journey. After analyzing his essential needs, it was time to look at his discretionary spending, his wants. This category, representing 30% of his budget, included leisure activities, outings, subscriptions, and other non-essential expenses. Marie greeted Julian with her usual warm smile. Welcome back, Julian. Today, we're going to focus on your wants. This is where we can often find the most flexibility and potential for savings. Julian nodded, taking a seat at the round table. I've been thinking a lot about this. I know I spend a lot on things I don't necessarily need, but I enjoy them. How do I balance cutting back without feeling like I'm missing out? Marie pulled up the spreadsheet they'd been working on and opened a new tab for discretionary spending. That's a great question. The key is to prioritize your wants and make conscious decisions about where your money goes. It's not about depriving yourself, but rather about finding a balance that allows you to enjoy life while still saving for your future. She began by asking Julian to list his discretionary expenses. Julian hesitated, then started listing, well, I go out to dinner a lot, probably 3 or 4 times a week. I also have subscriptions to multiple streaming services, a gym membership, and I like to buy new clothes and gadgets pretty often. Marie entered each item into the spreadsheet, noting the monthly costs. When they were done, she totaled the amounts. Okay, Julian, let's see where you stand with your wants. Julian watched as Marie calculated the percentages. His eyes widened as the numbers came up on the screen. Wow, I'm spending almost 40% of my income on wants. I had no idea it was that high. Marie nodded. It's easy to lose track, especially when it's spread across so many different things. Let's break it down and see where you can make adjustments without sacrificing your enjoyment. They started with dining out. You mentioned you go out to eat several times a week, Marie said. How often do you think you could realistically cut back without feeling deprived? Julian thought for a moment. Maybe I could cut it down to once or twice a week. I do enjoy cooking and it would be cheaper. That sounds like a good plan, Marie agreed, adjusting the numbers. Next, let's look at your subscriptions. How many streaming services do you currently have? 3, Julian admitted. I use them all, but maybe not as much as I thought. Marie smiled. How about picking your favorite 1 or 2 and pausing the others for a while? You can always reactivate them if you miss them. Julian nodded. I think I could do that. I keep my favorite and pause the other 2. They moved on to his gym membership. Do you use the gym regularly? Marie asked. Julian shrugged. Not as much as I should. I mostly go for the classes, but I could probably find cheaper alternatives or even exercise at home. That's a good idea, Marie said. There are plenty of online workout programs that are much cheaper or even free. Finally, they addressed his spending on clothes and gadgets. I love new tech and fashion, Julian admitted, but I guess I don't need to buy something new every month. Marie nodded. Perhaps you can set a budget for these items and only make purchases when you really need them or when they fit within that budget. With these adjustments, they recalculated his discretionary spending. The changes brought Julian's wants down to 30% of his income, aligning with the 50-30-20 method. Julian sighed, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. It's going to be a challenge, but I think I can do it. I need to remind myself that these changes are for the better. Marie smiled encouragingly. Exactly. It's about making mindful choices and finding enjoyment in other ways. You'll be surprised how much you can save while still having a fulfilling life. As they wrapped up, Julian felt a sense of accomplishment. He had a clear understanding of his discretionary spending and a practical plan to manage it better. The thought of being more intentional with his money was empowering. Thank you, Marie, he said sincerely. I feel like I'm making real progress. Marie beamed. You're doing great, Julian. Remember, it's a journey. Keep tracking your expenses and adjusting as needed. You'll find the right balance. Leaving Marie's office, Julian felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was ready to embrace his new budgeting approach, confident that he could enjoy life while still being financially responsible. The path to better financial health was becoming clearer with each step he took. Episode 5: The Importance of Saving and Reducing Debt. The following week, Julian arrived at Marie's office feeling more optimistic about his financial future. He had started making adjustments to his spending on wants and was eager to learn more about how to manage his savings and debt. Marie greeted him with her usual warm smile, ready to dive into the next crucial component of the 50-30-20 budgeting method. Today, we're going to talk about the final 20% of your budget. Marie began as they sat down at the round table. This portion is dedicated to savings and debt repayment. It's essential for building financial security and ensuring you have a cushion for emergencies. Julian nodded, eager to absorb the information. I understand the concept, but I'm not sure where to start. I've never been great at saving, and my debts feel overwhelming. Marie smiled reassuringly. That's okay, Julian. The important thing is that you're here and ready to make a change. Let's start with savings. Having a solid savings fund can protect you from unexpected expenses, like car repairs or medical bills, without derailing your financial plan. She opened a new tab on her spreadsheet and began entering data. First, let's talk about setting up an emergency fund. Ideally, you want to aim for 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. This might take time to build, but every little bit helps. Julian leaned in, watching as Marie outlined the plan. How much should I start saving each month? He asked. Marie thought for a moment. Let's aim for a manageable amount to begin with. Since we want 20% of your income to go towards savings and debt repayment, let's split that. You can start by allocating 10% to savings and 10% to debt repayment. As your financial situation improves, you can adjust these amounts. Julian nodded, feeling a bit more confident. That sounds doable. What about my debts? I have student loans and a credit card balance that I've been struggling to pay off. Marie pulled up another section of her spreadsheet. Let's prioritize your debts. Generally, it's a good idea to tackle high interest debt first, like credit card balances. The faster you pay these off, the less you pay in interest over time. She explained the snowball and avalanche method for debt repayment. With the snowball method, you pay off your smallest debts first, which can give you a sense of accomplishment and motivate you to keep going. The avalanche method focuses on paying off high interest debts first, which saves you more money in the long run. Which approach do you think would work better for you? Julian considered the options. I think the avalanche method makes more sense for me. My credit card interest is pretty high and I want to get rid of that as soon as possible. Marie smiled. Great choice. Let's create a plan for paying down your credit card debt while making minimum payments on your student loans. Once the credit card is paid off, you can redirect those payments to your student loans. As they mapped out his debt repayment strategy, Julian felt a sense of relief. The steps were clear and he could see a path forward. This feels more manageable than I expected, he admitted. Marie nodded. It's all about breaking it down into small, actionable steps. Consistency is key. Even if you can only set aside a small amount each month, it adds up over time. They discussed automatic transfers to savings accounts and making extra payments on his credit card whenever possible. Julian appreciated the practical tips and felt motivated to start implementing them immediately. Remember, Marie said, building an emergency fund and reducing debt will not only give you peace of mind but also free up financial resources in the long term. You'll be able to invest more, save for retirement, and even enjoy more of those once guilt-free. Julian left Marie's office that day with a renewed sense of purpose. He was determined to start setting aside money regularly and tackle his debts head-on. The path to financial security was clearer, and with Marie's guidance, he felt equipped to stay the course. As he walked home, Julian reflected on the progress he'd made so far. The 50-30-20 method was more than just a budgeting tool. It was a framework for living a more intentional and balanced life. With each step, he was moving closer to his goals, confident that he could create a stable and secure future for himself. Episode 6: Creating a Monthly Budget. Another week had passed, and Julian was back at Marie's office, ready to put everything he had learned into practice. Today's session was all about creating a concrete monthly budget using the 50-30-20 method. Julian felt a mix of anticipation and nervousness as he sat down at the familiar round table. Marie greeted him with a bright smile. Hi, Julian. Are you ready to create your monthly budget? Julian nodded. I am. I've been tracking my expenses more diligently, and I'm curious to see how everything fits together. Marie opened her laptop, pulling up the spreadsheet they have been working on. Great. The goal today is to list your income and expenses, and then adjust them to align with the 50-30-20 method. This will give you a clear framework to manage your money each month. She started by entering Julian's net monthly income into the spreadsheet. Let's begin with your income. This is the amount you take home after taxes and deductions. Julian watched as Marie entered the figures. Okay, now let's break down your expenses. We'll start with your essential needs, which should ideally be 50% of your income. Marie listed his rent, utilities, groceries, and transportation costs, summing them up in the essential needs column. They quickly realized that these expenses still hovered around 65% of his income, despite the initial adjustments they had discussed. We're still a bit over the 50% mark, Marie said thoughtfully. But that's okay. We know where you can potentially make more adjustments over time. Let's move on to your wants. They went through Julian's discretionary spending next. Dining out, subscriptions, gym membership, and other leisure activities were tallied. Marie adjusted the amounts based on the previous discussion, bringing the total closer to the recommended 30%. Now for the savings and debt repayment, Marie continued. We want to allocate 20% of your income here. This includes your emergency fund, additional savings, and payments towards your credit card debt. Marie filled in the numbers, ensuring they prioritized the high interest debt while still setting aside money for savings. Once all the expenses were categorized and totaled, they took a step back to review the entire budget. Julian leaned in, studying the spreadsheet. This looks good, but I can see how it requires discipline. I'll need to be consistent with my spending and keep track of everything. Marie nodded. Exactly, discipline is key. It might take a little while to get used to, but once you do, it will become second nature. The most important thing is to stick to your budget and adjust as needed. Life can be unpredictable, and that's okay. The 50-30-20 method is a guide, not a strict rule. They spent the next hour fine-tuning the budget, making sure every expense was accounted for and categorized correctly. Marie showed Julian how to set up automatic transfers to his savings account and schedule debt payments to ensure he stayed on track. How do you feel about this? Marie asked as they wrapped up. Julian took a deep breath, feeling a mix of apprehension and determination. It's going to be challenging, but I feel more in control already. Having everything laid out like this makes it seem more achievable. Marie smiled. That's the spirit. Remember, it's a journey. You might have months where you need to adjust and readjust. The important thing is that you're taking control of your finances and working towards your goals. Julian left Marie's office with a sense of accomplishment. He had a clear, actionable budget to follow and the tools to manage his money effectively. The discipline required was daunting, but he felt ready to embrace it, knowing that it would lead to a more stable and secure future. As he walked home, Julian reflected on how far he had come. The 50-30-20 method was not just a budgeting tool, it was a blueprint for living a balanced life. With each step, he was moving closer to financial stability and peace of mind. And with Marie's guidance, he knew he could stay the course and achieve his goals. Episode 7, Tracking and Adjusting the Budget. Julian returned to Marie's office feeling more confident about his financial future. He had a clear budget in place, and now it was time to learn how to maintain it. Marie welcomed him with her usual warm smile, ready to discuss the next crucial step, tracking and adjusting the budget. Hi Julian, today we're going to talk about the importance of regularly tracking your budget and making adjustments when necessary. Marie began as they settled at the round table. Julian nodded, eager to learn more. I understand the budget concept, but I'm not sure how to keep up with it on a daily basis. It feels like a lot to manage. Marie smiled reassuringly. It can seem overwhelming at first, but with the right tools and habits, it becomes much easier. Let's start by discussing why tracking your expenses is important. By keeping an eye on where your money is going, you can ensure you're sticking to your budget and identify any areas where you might need to make adjustments. She opened her laptop and pulled up a list of popular budgeting apps. There are many tools available that can help you track your expenses effortlessly. Apps like Mint, YNAB, and Pocket Card are designed to help you monitor your spending in real time. They can link to your bank accounts and credit cards, categorizing transactions automatically. Julian leaned in, intrigued. That sounds helpful. Which app would you recommend for a beginner? Marie thought for a moment. Mint is a great starting point. It's user-friendly and provides a comprehensive overview of your finances. It tracks your spending, categorizes expenses, and even sends alerts when you're nearing your budget limits. She demonstrated how to set up the app, linking it to his bank accounts and credit cards. Julian watched as the app quickly categorized his recent transactions, displaying them in an easy-to-read dashboard. Wow, this makes it so much easier to see where my money is going, Julian remarked. I can track my spending in real time and adjust my habits accordingly. Marie nodded. Exactly. The key is to check the app regularly and review your spending habits. Set aside time each week to go through your expenses and see if you're staying within your budget. If you notice you're overspending in one category, you can adjust your spending in other areas to compensate. They spent the next hour exploring the app's features, setting up budget categories, and customizing alerts. Julian was impressed by how intuitive the app was and how quickly he could see his spending patterns. Another important aspect is to stay flexible, Marie continued. Life is unpredictable and your budget should be adaptable. If an unexpected expense comes up, like a car repair or a medical bill, don't panic. Look at your budget and see where you can make temporary adjustments. Maybe you cut back on dining out for a month or postpone a discretionary purchase. Julian felt a sense of relief. Knowing that I can adjust my budget without feeling like I failed is reassuring. It makes the whole process seem more manageable. Marie smiled. Exactly. The goal is to maintain control and make informed decisions. Regular tracking helps you stay on top of your finances and make proactive adjustments instead of reactive ones. As they wrapped up the session, Marie handed Julian a small notebook. This is for times when you might not have your phone handy or if you prefer jotting things down manually. Writing down your expenses can also help reinforce your awareness of your spending habits. Julian thanked her, feeling more equipped than ever. I appreciate all your help, Marie. I feel like I finally have a clear plan and the tools to stick to it. Marie beamed. You're doing great, Julian. Remember, tracking your budget is an ongoing process. Stay consistent and you'll see the benefits over time. I'm here to support you every step of the way. Leaving Marie's office, Julian felt a renewed sense of purpose. With his new budgeting app and the knowledge of how to track and adjust his finances, he was ready to take control of his financial future. He checked his phone, looking at the app's dashboard with a sense of determination. Each step he took was bringing him closer to his goals, and with Marie's guidance, he knew he was on the right path. Episode 8, Managing Unexpected Expenses. Julian walked into Marie's office with a sense of accomplishment. He had been diligently tracking his budget and making adjustments as needed. However, he knew there was still more to learn about managing his finances effectively. Today, they were going to discuss how to handle unexpected expenses. Marie welcomed him warmly. Hi, Julian. How have things been going with the budget tracking? Julian smiled. It's going well. The app has been really helpful and I feel more in control of my spending. But I know there's still more to cover, especially when it comes to unexpected expenses. Marie nodded. Absolutely. Life is full of surprises, and it's important to be prepared for them. Today, we'll talk about creating an emergency fund to help you manage those unexpected expenses without derailing your budget. She opened her laptop and pulled up the spreadsheet they had been working on. An emergency fund is a savings buffer that can cover unforeseen costs, like car repairs, medical bills, or even a sudden job loss. The goal is to have 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses saved up. Julian leaned in, intrigued. I've never really thought about setting money aside specifically for emergencies. It always seemed like something I'd worry about later. Marie smiled understandingly. That's a common mindset, but having an emergency fund to provide peace of mind and financial stability. It allows you to handle unexpected expenses without resorting to high-interest credit cards or loans. She began to outline a plan for building an emergency fund. Let's start with a small goal, like saving $1,000. This is a good initial buffer and can cover many minor emergencies. Once you reach that, you can aim for 3 to 6 months of expenses. Julian nodded, feeling a bit daunted but determined. That makes sense. How do I start? Barry pulled up a new tab on the spreadsheet. First, let's identify how much you can set aside each month. Since you're already following the 50-30-20 method, you're allocating 20% of your income to savings and debt repayment. You can start by directing a portion of that to your emergency fund. They calculated a feasible monthly amount Julian could save without straining his budget. Let's say you set aside $200 a month, Marie suggested. At that rate, you'll reach your initial $1,000 goal in 5 months. Julian nodded. I can do that. It feels more manageable when you break it down like this. Marie smiled. Exactly. Consistency is key. Automating your savings can help too. Set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to a dedicated savings account every month. This way, you won't be tempted to spend that money. Julian took note of the advice. I like the idea of automating it. It takes the decision making out of the process. Marie continued, once you have your initial $1,000, you can keep building towards the 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. Remember, this fund is strictly for emergencies, so try to avoid dipping into it for non-urgent expenses. Julian felt a sense of resolve. I understand. Having this safety net will definitely make me feel more secure. Marie nodded. Exactly. And if you ever do need to use the emergency fund, make it a priority to replenish it as soon as possible. Life can be unpredictable, but being prepared can make a big difference. They discussed ways to boost his emergency savings, such as using bonuses, tax refunds, or any extra income. Julian felt more confident, knowing he had a clear plan to follow. Thank you, Marie, Julian said sincerely. I feel much better knowing I'm taking steps to prepare for the unexpected. Marie smiled warmly. You're doing great, Julian. Building an emergency fund is a smart move, and it will give you the financial resilience you need. Keep up the good work, and remember, I'm here to help you every step of the way. Leaving Marie's office, Julian felt a new sense of determination. He was ready to start building his emergency fund, confident that it would provide the security he needed for whatever life might throw his way. Each step he took in managing his finances brought him closer to a stable and secure future, and he was grateful for Marie's guidance in this journey. Episode 9: Adapting the method to his goals. Julian walked into Marie's office with a sense of curiosity and excitement. He had been successfully managing his budget, tracking his expenses, and building his emergency fund. Now he was ready to take the next step, adapting the 50-30-20 method to achieve his personal goals. Marie greeted him with a smile. "Hi Julian, how are you feeling about your progress so far?" Julian smiled back. "I'm feeling good. The budgeting and tracking have really helped me stay on top of my finances. But I have some long-term goals, and I'm not sure how to incorporate them into the 50-30-20 method." Marie nodded. "That's a great point. The beauty of the 50-30-20 method is its flexibility. You can adjust your financial priorities to align with your goals, whether it's buying a house, going on a trip, or starting a business." She pulled up the familiar spreadsheet and opened a new tab for goal setting. "Let's start by identifying your main goals. What are the top 3 things you want to achieve in the next few years?" Julian thought for a moment. "Well, I'd love to buy a house, take a trip to Japan, and eventually launch my own business." Marie smiled. "Those are excellent goals. Let's break them down one by one and see how we can adapt your budget to help you achieve them." They started with the goal of buying a house. "Buying a house is a significant investment," Marie explained. "You'll need to save for a down payment, closing costs, and other expenses." "How much do you think you'll need for a down payment?" Julian had done some research. "I think around $40,000 would be a good target." Marie nodded. "Great, let's create a separate savings goal for your down payment. Since you're already setting aside 20% of your income for savings and debt repayment, we can allocate a portion of that specifically for your house fund." They calculated how much Julian could realistically save each month toward his down payment without sacrificing his emergency fund or debt repayments. Marie created a new column in the spreadsheet, detailing his progress towards this goal. Next, they moved on to Julian's dream trip to Japan. "Traveling is a wonderful goal, and it's important to enjoy life along the way," Marie said. "How much do you estimate the trip will cost?" Julian had looked into it. "Around $5,000 should cover flights, accommodation, and spending money." Marie smiled. "Perfect. Let's set a timeline for this goal. When do you want to take the trip?" "Maybe in 2 years," Julian replied. Marie did some quick calculations. "If we divide the total cost by 24 months, you'll need to save about $210 a month. We can allocate a portion of your wants budget towards this goal, as travel can be considered a want." Finally, they discussed Julian's ambition to start his own business. "Launching a business is an exciting but challenging goal," Marie noted. "Do you have an idea of how much initial capital you'll need?" Julian nodded. "I think around $20,000 to get things off the ground." Marie added another column to the spreadsheet for Julian's business fund. "Since this is a long-term goal, we can start by saving a smaller amount each month and gradually increase it as your financial situation improves. This might mean making temporary adjustments to your current spending and savings plans." With all the goals clearly laid out, Marie summarized the plan. "Julian, by adjusting your budget to allocate specific amounts towards each of the goals, you're ensuring that your money is working towards what matters most to you. It might require some sacrifices and discipline, but the key is to stay focused and adaptable." Julian felt a surge of motivation. "This makes it feel so much more achievable. I can see how each small step adds up to something significant." Marie smiled. "Exactly. Remember, it's all about balance. You can adjust your allocations as needed, depending on changes in your income or expenses. The important thing is to stay committed to your goals and be flexible when necessary." As Julian left Marie's office, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. He now had a clear roadmap to achieve his long-term goal while maintaining his financial health. The 50-30-20 method had provided a solid foundation, and with Marie's guidance, he could adapt it to suit his aspirations. Each step brought him closer to his dreams, and he was ready to take on the future with confidence and determination. Episode 10: Challenges and Successes. Julian felt a mix of pride and frustration as he walked into Marie's office. Over the past few months, he had made significant strides toward his financial goals, but he also faced numerous challenges that tested his resolve. Today, he was looking forward to sharing his experiences with Marie and getting her advice on staying motivated. Marie welcomed him with her usual warm smile. "Hi Julian, how have things been going?" Julian sighed, then smiled. "It's been a roller coaster. I've made some progress, but there have been unexpected expenses and temptations to overspend." Marie nodded empathetically. That's perfectly normal. Let's talk about the challenges you faced and how we can address them. Julian recounted the past few months. I had to replace my car's tires, which set me back a few $100s. Then there were a few times I splurged on dining out and shopping. It feels like I'm constantly taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Marie listened attentively. Unexpected expenses are inevitable, and it's important to remember that setbacks don't mean failure. You've already built a solid foundation with your emergency fund, which is great. Did you use it for the car repairs? Julian nodded. Yes, and it was a relief to have that money set aside, but it was still frustrating to dip into my savings. Marie smiled. That's exactly what the emergency fund is for. You handled it well by using your savings instead of accumulating more debt. Now let's focus on replenishing that fund. As for the overspending, it's about finding a balance. It's okay to enjoy yourself, but it's important to stay mindful of your long-term goals. They reviewed his budget together, identifying areas where Julian could make adjustments. Marie suggested setting a monthly limit for discretionary spending and using cash or a separate account to manage it. By setting a cap on your want spending, you can enjoy your leisure activities without jeopardizing your financial plan, Marie explained. And remember, it's okay to treat yourself occasionally as long as it fits within your budget. Julian felt reassured. I like that idea. I think having a clear limit will help me stay on track. Marie smiled. Absolutely. Now let's talk about your successes. You've made significant progress, and it's important to celebrate those achievements. Julian brightened up. Well, I paid off my first credit card debt last month. It felt amazing to see that zero balance. Marie clapped her hands in delight. That's fantastic, Julian. Paying off a debt is a huge milestone. You should be really proud of yourself. They took a moment to celebrate the achievement, discussing how paying off the debt had freed up more money for his other goals. Julian felt a renewed sense of motivation as they mapped out the next steps in his plan. Remember, every small victory is a step toward your larger goals, Marie said. You've paid off your first debt, and now you can redirect those payments towards your next priority. Progress might seem slow at times, but it's steady and meaningful. Julian nodded, feeling more optimistic. I guess it's about staying patient and consistent. Exactly, Marie agreed. And don't hesitate to adjust your plan as needed. Life changes, and your budget should be flexible enough to adapt. The important thing is to keep your goals in sight and stay motivated. As they wrapped up their session, Marie handed Julian a small notebook. This is for you to jot down your financial achievements and any challenges you face. Sometimes, seeing your progress on paper can be a great motivator. Julian accepted the notebook with gratitude. Thank you, Marie. This journey has been challenging, but your support has made all the difference. Marie smiled warmly. They're doing an incredible job, Julian. Keep going, stay focused, and remember that I'm here to help you every step of the way. Leaving Marie's office, Julian felt a renewed sense of determination. He had faced challenges, but he had also achieved significant milestones. Each success, no matter how small, was a testament to his hard work and dedication. With Marie's guidance, he knew he could overcome any obstacle and continue making progress toward his financial goals. The future looked brighter, and Julian was ready to take on whatever came his way. Episode 11, Conclusion and Future Vision. Several months had passed since Julian first walked into Marie's office with the desire to take control of his finances. Today, he felt a sense of accomplishment and pride as he entered the office for their final session. He had worked hard to master the 50-30-20 method and was eager to share his progress with Marie. Marie greeted him with a warm smile. Hi, Julian. It's great to see you. How have things been going? Julian beamed. It's been amazing. I've been sticking to the 50-30-20 method, and I feel much more confident in managing my finances. The discipline and planning have really paid off. Marie nodded, pleased with his progress. That's wonderful to hear. Tell me more about the benefits you've noticed. Julian sat down and began to recount his experiences. Well, I've managed to rebuild my emergency fund after that unexpected car repair. I've also stayed within my budget for discretionary spending, which has helped me avoid unnecessary debt. Most importantly, I've started to see my savings grow, which is really motivating. Marie listened intently. That's fantastic, Julian. We've come a long way since we first started. How do you feel about your financial future now? Julian took a deep breath, feeling a sense of satisfaction. I feel empowered. I know that I have the tools and knowledge to handle my finances effectively. The 50-30-20 method has given me a solid foundation, and I'm confident that I can achieve my long-term goals. Marie smiled, proud of his achievements. You've done an incredible job, Julian. Your hard work and dedication have truly paid off. Now, let's talk about your future projects. What are your plans moving forward? Julian's eyes lit up with excitement. I'm still focused on buying a house, and I'm steadily saving for the down payment. My trip to Japan is also on track, and I'm looking forward to that. As for my business, I've started setting aside money to fund its launch. It feels great to know that I'm making progress on all these fronts. Marie nodded, encouraging him to continue. Those are all fantastic goals. With the financial skills you've developed, I'm confident you'll achieve them. Remember, the key is to stay adaptable and keep reviewing your budget to make sure it aligns with your priorities. Julian smiled, feeling grateful for Marie's guidance. I couldn't have done it without your support, Marie. You've taught me so much, and I feel ready to take on whatever comes my way. Marie handed him a small, elegantly bound journal. This is for you to continue tracking your goals and progress. It's important to keep setting new milestones and celebrating your achievements along the way. Julian accepted the journal with gratitude. Thank you, Marie. This means a lot to me. They spent the rest of the session discussing strategies for maintaining his financial health and exploring potential challenges he might face in the future. Marie provided tips on how to stay motivated and reminded him that setbacks were a natural part of the journey. As their meeting came to a close, Marie looked at Julian with pride. You've mastered the 50-30-20 method and transformed your financial life. Remember that I'm always here if you need advice or support. You've got the skills now, and I know you'll achieve great things. Julian stood up, feeling a sense of accomplishment and optimism. Thank you, Marie. Your guidance has been invaluable, and I'm excited about the future. Leaving Marie's office for the last time, Julian felt a profound sense of confidence. He had not only learned to manage his finances, but had also gained a new perspective on life and his ability to achieve his dreams. With the 50-30-20 method as his guide and Marie's wisdom in his heart, he was ready to face the future and turn his aspirations into reality.